Council will come to order. All rise and salute the flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Please remain standing for a moment of silence in honor of our veterans, servicemen and women, and those who have given the ultimate sacrifice. The clerk will call the roll.
Anderson. Here. Kamel. Condon. Here. Crow. Here. DeMaria. Here. Matheson. Murphy. Here. O'Malley. Here. Spadafora. Here. Winslow. Here. Sika.
Here. Under the provisions of the open meeting law, for those of you in attendance, please be informed that MATV, along with resident John Mayara, is recording this evening's meeting. John Mayara and Malden MATV will be recording this meeting, so just be aware there will be audio and video recording. First order of business.
Under Guests and Citizens Achievement, Jim O'Brien will appear before the council to hold a tax clarification hearing.
Good evening, councilors. This is the tax classification hearing, which is a required public hearing each fiscal year. And at this hearing, there's a number of matters that you're asked to consider and vote with respect to how properties here in the city of Malden are taxed. So there's three main areas I failed to kind of touch on, and the packages that I handed out, they're labeled H, D, and there's one not labeled. The one not labeled is sort of the most important. It's the one that's going to be submitted to the state in about 14 hours, hopefully. The other two, H and D, H is sort of my presentation and how I'll go along with the various topics, whereas D is a bunch of data and stats and figures and the kind of stuff some people want to hear about and see about. So with that, I would say the first topic would be, just take a moment to get a little bit organized. For the benefit of property owners, tax bills, taxes are based on two main variables. That's the assessed value and the tax rate. Those are two of the main sections I wanted to just touch on. With respect to the assessed values that we come up with on the property, we work on it all year. The law that we work under says that we're supposed to set values at the market level, so we're constantly studying the market. We're fortunate we have a lot of sales activity in Malden, so that helps us pin the come up with what we feel are reliable numbers, reliable values. That determination we make each year does get submitted to the state, and did about 6 weeks ago and was approved. So you'll see on that H2 page, I make reference to the sales that we used from a year ago, and in this is H2. Into the column to the right of that, I'm showing what the new assessments are for the new year, the current year, which is fiscal 20. You'll notice they're close to, but they're below, and then that's sort of the role of the assessor, is to bring your assessed values to the market, but hopefully not be over the market. You know, and of course, there's various properties. There's always averages, and there's some that are lower and higher. But if you look there, I think it's pretty consistent that our assessed values on all our residential stock, which is about 12,000 properties, the assessed values that we've come up with are below what the properties sold for in the previous year. So this would be the section about assessed value. I'm going to move on to tax rate. However, if there was a question or comment on the assessed value section, more than willing to hold off, or if you want me to just go through with the other two. The main three sections I feel are assessed value, tax rate, and residential exemption. Those are three main areas that come into play, I think, here in Malden. So seeing and hearing no comments, I'll move on to tax rate. The levy divided by the total value of the city produces your tax rate. On H3, it's reflected. If we just took the share value of the city, which is about $8.4 billion, divided by the 13,000 properties, we would come up with what's called the single tax rate. And this year it would be, I think it's 1119. Yes, but given that there's a provision in the law where you can shift some of the tax burden away from residential onto commercial, and Malden has opted for that historically, and the shifting that we've done historically is at a 1.75 level. So the commercial taxpayer pays $1.75 when the residential taxpayer pays $1. Each of those properties has their own value. That's a different component. We're just talking about tax rate now. So the tax rate with that shift turns out to be, I think it's $12.65. Oh, no, that's after our residential exemption. I'm sorry. The tax rate gets ballooned up because the residential rate gets reduced because of the shifting from what it would have been. Then we have the program known as the residential exemption, which we've opted for here since 2008. And that program gives a benefit to owner-occupied properties. We've voted in that program the last few years at a 30% level. That does not mean 30% of an individual's value. It's a more macro calculation that's done. The calculation results in every property that qualifies for the exemption getting the same dollar discount. And I believe the amount this year is up from last year, and I think it's $22.61, if I'm not mistaken, if you folks vote for the 30%. Yes, it will be $2,261. And that's up from last year, which was $21.57. So I'm going to move over to H6, which is what I called, it kind of summarizes a little better some of the numbers I just threw out, and this is the what ifs. So if there was no shifting, nothing, just value and levy, your rate for everyone would be $11.19. This is H6. If we shift the 175, which we've done historically, the residential rate would benefit and it would go down to $10.13. Commercial rate would be $19.58. And then in the third scenario, if we shift the 175 and we also employ the residential exemption program, the residential rate balloons up because the support for that program is born inside of the residential rate. That's an important point. If you look at scenario 2 and 3, you see that the commercial rate did not change. Okay. So the assessors would recommend that you once again vote for the a 1.75 shift, and for the continuation of the residential exemption program at the 30% level. And that will conclude for me.
I will now call the public hearing portion of this open. Anybody who wishes to speak in favor of this, please come forward and state your name and address for the record. Anybody who wishes to speak in favor? Hearing none and seeing none, I declare that portion of the hearing closed. Anybody who wishes to speak in opposition, please come forward and state your name and address for the record. Anybody who wishes to speak in opposition? Hearing none and seeing none, I declare that portion of this public hearing closed. I have some lights on. Councilor Murphy.
Thank you, Madam President. Thank you, Mr. O'Brien, for your presentation. I'm just kind of going through the data here right now. What I'm always interested in is the amount of homes that do not qualify for the residential tax exemption. I don't know if there's a chart in here that shows that.
Yeah, I think I can direct you to one of the attachments. I think it's an H.
An H. And and what the starting value of those homes are, because
Yep.
As you so eloquently put, this is a flat rate, and some homes actually fall outside of this. So some of our higher priced homes receive no benefit at all from this residential tax exemption, even though they are owner occupied. And I would just like to, as I say, know how many of those homes there are that fall outside of this program.
It's D5.
D5.
And I guess the first answer to the questions would be far right column. You'll see there's 12,589 residential properties that could get it.
Okay.
And then in the second column, backslash the second figure, that's how many are signed up to get it for fiscal 20, 8359 out of 12,589.
Correct, but the 12,000 could be a combination of owner-occupied and non-owner-occupied, correct?
It's the entire residential class.
My question is more specific. It is for a home, a single-family home that's, let's say, worth $800,000. Do they fall in or outside? What's the delta where you fall outside of getting the residential tax exemption? And
I don't have an H or a D, but I have Steve Farmer.
Okay.
So I have a report, and the break even this year. Actually, you have his form as well. Tough to read. There's a tremendous amount of data on his form. For me, it's tough to read. His form is H7. But let me try to summarize that. The break even is $897,301. So what that means is if there's a property in the city that has a value in excess of that, they're going to end up paying more in taxes than if we didn't even have the program. Also, for the property whose value is just below that benchmark, they'll get the exemption, but they're getting a real little benefit.
Right.
The other end of the spectrum, and I'll give you the numbers on those two parameters. The other end of the spectrum is the really low-valued properties, mostly condominiums, small one-bedroom and studios. There's a break-even. There's not a break-even. There's a floor, which is at about $178,000 in value. Meaning, if my condo is worth $180,000, I got a really little tax bill. If my condo is valued at $168,000, I pay nothing, except the law has a provision that says in no instance does anyone pay nothing. For those folks that fall below that floor, we go back and we have to calculate what would have been 10% of their tax bill, and that's what they incur for a tax. So, Councilor Murphy, the question you had, above the break even, this year, 287 people. 223 of those are all the apartment buildings, the mixed use, the large valued properties. The small residential folks, condos, single, two-family, three-family, that are being hurt, there's 8 single families, 24 two-families, and 32 three-families. Their value is such that they're above the break even. So that's on the upper end. On that lower end, the folks that get a real break, there's about 51 of them that their value is so low that they're way down. About 51 properties, and they're just about all residential condos. There's a single family by the cemetery, but other than that, it's all little condos, one bedroom and studios.
So basically, we're talking about 62 properties, some of which might not be owner-occupied. Is that correct? 8 singles, 22 two-families. 30.
Oh, no. These figures I'm giving you represent owner-occupied folks that are above the threshold on value, so they're not benefiting.
Okay, they're actually getting penalized.
By virtue of the program.
Yes. Okay.
They're getting the exemption, but because their value was above that break even. There was 8 single families, 24 two families, and 32 three families.
Okay.
Most of them are probably over around, the Fellsway and Clifton, and I think it's Ward 3, and most of the higher value.
Okay. Are those figures down from last year? Because we're up at 897 now, or is that just kind of holding?
No, that figure's up. The break even last year, I don't have it in front of me, but the break even was a little lower.
Lower. No, I know
yeah.
that. But
so I think all boats rose, so to speak. I mean,
okay.
I think as things change, everything kind of does.
Okay. Thank you.
Excuse me. Councilor Anderson.
Thank you, Madam President. Jim, you said that the assessed values have decreased this year over last year?
No. I think the area I was talking that I apparently wasn't clear on, I was showing on one of the pages that the average sale per the data we get said 450, and then I took you to the next column and said the average value of that type of property is 428 or something. I was just showing that our assessed values were hovering below the market, which is ideal for assessors so that folks can't challenge it, and yet we're meeting the guidelines with the Department of Revenue. I think, is that the area that we were
Yes, I guess I'm trying
the values were everything. Market values rose, assessed values rose. Absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah. I was only making the point that our assessments were lagging below the market, which is a goal that we certainly have.
And why is that? I guess I don't understand.
Because
why,
we don't want to have everyone coming in on January 1st and filing abatements saying that we're overvalued.
Okay.
And the other end of the spectrum, the last 6 weeks, I've had to meet DOR guidelines showing that we're adjusting our values to the market. So it's a real balance.
So is that saying that our property is less valuable this year than it was last year?
No. The market value is where you would look to determine values of property. The assessed is not market.
Okay.
I
get it. And so the recommendations that you bring to us this evening, those are the recommendations of the board?
It is. That's historically what we've done with the shifting to the maximum allowable amount, the 1.75, and we've had the ResX program since '08, and it was introduced the first few years at baby steps, and then we quickly got up to the max allowable by law at the time, which was 20. We petitioned the legislature and asked if we could go higher because Somerville did, and we wanted to copy them. And then Baker changed the rules and said everyone could go to 30. And so Somerville went to 35. And if we wanted to go to 35, we'd have to petition the legislature again. They're the only community in the state that's at that level. I think you'll see in the handout about the ResX as a community that abolished it. There's 2 communities that were considering it right around our neighbors that didn't put it in place, Revere and Medford.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Councilor O'Malley.
Thank you, Madam President. Last year, I asked the same question. Since the Merrimack Valley gas incident, we've seen a lot of gas work by National Grid locally, where they're putting in new gas lines. For instance, on Main Street, they replaced over a mile of 3-century-old gas mains with one new, brand new one. Obviously, that new one is going to have a higher value than the depreciated older gas. You said that the state gives you the value of the personal property?
They set the value.
They set the value.
State sets the value for the utilities.
Of how much personal property they have in the
Right.
community?
Yeah.
Okay, has that gone up? Do you know?
That one particular National Grid?
Yeah. Because I think
could
it would
look.
make
I don't have it. I know that our personal property did go up. I know one of them went down substantially as a result of a court case, Verizon. It dragged down a lot of the utility value. But I think Mass Electric and National Grid, I think, are still both rising.
If maybe offline you could give us that specific case, it'd be good to see kind of how much increased value those particular utility companies have in the community.
Sure.
Thank you. Oh, and the small cell antennas and all that, that's taken into account, the state's giving you that?
The state does through Verizon and all the cell providers.
Based on what they're reporting to the state?
Yeah, they're required to report to the state. I don't know what type of an audit the state does with them, but our values come from the state. Around May every year, we get the new values for like fiscal 20, our current year. We got those values around May. That happens every year.
Do you think we could inquire to the state where they get how they get to that number?
Sure.
It would be great to maybe double check their math to make sure that.
Yeah, they have a lot of court cases in there with the utilities. It's a very fluid and active and changing industry, and obsolescence, I think, that's what happened with Verizon, was all the obsolescence of the new equipment. But hopefully in the next year, you get the new equipment, which makes up for the obsolescence.
Understood. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilor DeMaria.
Thank you, Madam President, and thank you, Mr. O'Brien, for coming forward with this great information. I think I just want to review what we're going to vote on tonight. So the tax rate last year, residential tax rate for 2019 was $13.27.
Yes.
And for this coming year, what we'll be voting on is a residential tax rate of $12.65.
Yes.
So that's great. It's going in the right direction. That's great.
Everything's down. The value's up. Both rates are down. The amount of the residential exemption is up a bit.
Yep.
So yeah, but there's a balance. I think it was Councilor Condon that pointed it out a year or two ago that, the rate's down, but the value's up, and he's exactly right.
Yeah.
You'd have to sit and do the calculations.
Yeah.
But,
And-
I'm sorry to interrupt, but I just remember there's an interesting handout that I'd like to reference. And this, again, was Mr. Condon saying something to me earlier today. There's a page in here somewhere that shows how much change on a per-class basis from one year to the next. And that would be
Is it D8?
D8.
D8
Thank you.
is what I'm reading. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And it's the very bottom to the right.
Mm-hmm.
And it shows that the average single-family tax bill for folks getting the residential exemption is up $252.
Mm-hmm.
Same thing, condominium, getting the exemption, it's up $150. Two-family is up $230, and the three-family is up $370. That's property owners that are getting the residential exemption in that calculation. I don't know if that addresses
No,
what you
that's
said.
exactly, yeah. And our discount for owner-occupied is $2,261.
Up from $2157.77.
That's wonderful. And the review that your office completed did a great job.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
I hope those taxpayers feel that way. So Mr. Farmer did some querying, and we had about 209 properties that we thought warranted looking at. And I did spend a lot of time doing that, going into databases around the state and different things. And so I've removed 77 of those, which I'll provide if you want to know the addresses. Mm-hmm. So they will not get it for fiscal 20. Now, there may be some in there that are going to come in and prove to me they're entitled to it, but with my, I don't want to say cursory review because I put in time on it, with my review, I have a strong feeling that they're not there and they're not entitled to it.
Yeah, bless you. Yeah, that's great. So that's 30%, just with the review, 30%
Right.
coming back.
What I say, 77 out of 209.
A little more than that,
Yeah.
yeah. Mm-hmm. So that's great.
And further, the other 60, I feel is equally confident that those folks are entitled to it. And there's circumstances why they came up on the report that Steve produced. You know, but I looked at it and, you know, it's the child taking care of the parents, the tax bills going to the child out of state, and corner lots on a number of them. The mailman puts the mail here, but the legal address is here. And
Yeah, that's great. And so what we're looking to do tonight is to vote on the 30%.
if you're going to continue with the program, the residential at the 30% level, and we'd have to vote on the shift of the pure
Thank
tax
you for
rate.
your hard work.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. Thank you, Madam President.
Thank you. Councilor Condon.
Thank you, Madam President. Jim, for years we've argued about these big apartment houses. We all know it's a business. They get taxed as residential still. Residential rate,
Yes.
not commercial. Let me ask something.
Correct.
Do we have many buildings that try to get the residential tax exemption?
Coming from
Say a 20-unit building.
no.
Do they try to, do we have many people that live in these buildings that claim it's owner-occupied?
No. The owners of those properties are professional landlords, and they're beyond that game. They're looking to challenge us in other areas. But in an earlier comment to Councilor Murphy, if you remember, I said that there was, I don't know, 277 or something residential properties above the break even not getting the exemption. And that was, a lot of those were what we call the 111s and the 112s. It's the apartment buildings. The 4 to 8 unit is the 111, and the bigger 9 unit and more is the 112. None of them are getting the exemption. They'd qualify for it if they honestly lived there and it was their primary residence. A lot of those properties are owned in trust and LLCs and things of that nature. That would disqualify them. It would have to be owned by Paul Condon and file your tax return from there in order to qualify, even if it was 100 units, even if it had mixed use on the ground, if it had retail. If it was your residential domicile, you'd qualify. But I'd be hard-pressed to say that even there's one property of that type getting it at the moment. I don't think there's anyone.
I mean, it's always nice to hear the residential tax rates going down, but the bottom line is, what's the bill?
Right.
The bills are going to go up,
Right.
but, because of the assessed value. So
Right. Because you have to multiply those two together.
people here, well, the residential tax rate is going down. That doesn't mean the bill's going
Right.
down.
Right. But that's why I included that other calculation. I saw the single family going up 252, I think, which I'm not going to stand here and say that's nothing because they'll tell me to pay it. But in the, 252 over the course of a year, I'll leave it at that.
Thank you.
Thank you. Councilor O'Malley.
I'm assuming that this takes into account a 2.5% increase of the overall levy.
Right. Yep.
Where is that on all of this? How do I, without me asking you that question, how would I have figured that out?
When you get signed up electronically, you're going to see all that. There's a form that you don't have called the OL. I'm sorry, not the OL, that's the overlay. There's a form called the levy limit, and it shows what the figures were from last year and how they carry forward. And it allows us to go in and do a 2.5% increase. And then we're allowed to add to that new growth that brings us to the new levy. So the forms that I gave you don't show you that. I certainly can get it to you, though. I actually might have it with me. Just a singular copy. I do.
Thank you. Thank you. I'm all set.
Okay.
Thank you, Councilor O'Malley. No other questions? Do I have a motion? Councilor Spatafora?
I make a motion to continue with the 1.75 shift, resulting in 0.905361 factor, to continue with the residential exemption at 30% for the fiscal year 2020, which I believe is option, is that C?
Yeah, but I think you've addressed it properly, Councilor. That option is just my little homework.
Yep. Just to reference the document that he handed out,
Okay.
I believe it's option C.
It is.
On Councilor Spatafora's motion, seconded by Councilor Anderson, to adopt a 1.75 shift resulting in 0.905361 factor, and to continue with residential exemption at 30% for fiscal year 2020. The clerk will call the roll.
Anderson. Yes. Kamel. Condon. Yes. Crow. Yes. DeMaria. Yes. Murphy. Yes. O'Malley. Yes. Spatafora. Yes. Winslow. Yes. Sika.
Yes. That order is adopted. Next order of business. Thank you.
Paper 394-19, minutes of the meeting of November 12, 2019.
Councilor Winslow's motion to approve the minutes. All those in favor? All those opposed? The minutes have been approved. Next order of business.
Paper 395-19, minutes of the meeting from November 19, 2019.
On Councilor Winslow's motion to approve the minutes, all those in favor? All those opposed? The minutes have been approved. Next order of business.
Paper 396-19, mayoral appointment, Juan K. Guan, 1 Main Street, Unit 204, Malden, Mass., to the Human Right and Fair Housing Commission as resident member appointment, said term to expire November 18, 2020.
Councilor Crowe. On Councilor Crow's motion to refer the appointment to personnel/appointments, all those in favor? All those opposed? The appointment is referred. Next order of business.
Paper 397-19, Christmas tree sales, Jay's Pizza and Ice Cream, 167 Center Street, Malden, renewal.
Councilor Murphy for the committee.
Yes, actually, Jay's Pizza and Ice Cream was late in putting in their application to sell Christmas trees. The Christmas trees are in the lot. So if you are in agreement, I would like to pass this petition on the floor this evening.
Councilor Murphy's motion to suspend docket rules to grant this petition. All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? Docket rules have been suspended.
I'd like to have council's approval to pass this petition this evening. Second.
Councilor Murphy's motion to grant this petition. All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? The petition has been granted. Next order of business.
Paper 398-19, order that paper number 341-19 be amended to read as follows, that the city accept the provisions of Mass General Law, Chapter 90, Section 18B, relative to establishing designated traffic safety zones within the city, which reads as follows. Section 18B, A, notwithstanding Section 18 of any other general or special law to the contrary, the City Council, the Transportation Commissioner of the City of Boston, the Board of Selectmen, Park Commissions, a Traffic Commission, or Traffic Director of a city or town that accepts this section in a manner provided in Section 4 of Chapter 4 may, in the interest of public safety and without further authority, establish designated safety zones on, at, or near any way in the city or town which is not a state highway, and with the approval of the department in the same as a state highway, such safety zones shall be posted as having a speed limit of 20 miles per hour. B, the operations of motor vehicles in such zone at speed exceeding the speed limit established under this section shall be violation of Section 17. In accordance with the Malden City Charter, the Traffic Commission shall be responsible for approving and establishing the extent of individual safety zones.
Councilor Winslow.
Yeah, we had passed essentially a similar resolution, and I brought that to the Traffic Commission, and they pointed out, I mean, even though I think under the law they have the authority to actually accept the law themselves, they were looking for the City Council to do the acceptance of the law, so as an order rather than as a resolution, and I believe, I don't know if that this is the new language that was come up with, so that we're passing an order, not a resolution. So we will actually have adopted this law, and then we can go ahead and get these safety zones going. So it's just a formality. I don't know if City Clerk has an explanation too, but I think we could probably just pass it on the floor. So that would be my recommendation, just to.
So motion to suspend docket rules?
Yeah, I guess motion to suspend docket rules so we can pass this order tonight.
I have a second. Councilor on Councilor Winslow's motion to suspend docket rules to adopt. All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? Docket rules have been suspended. On Councilor Winslow's motion to adopt.
Yeah.
All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed?
You want to do it?
You want a roll call?
Sure. For an order, yeah. I don't. Yeah, we can do a roll call. Why don't we do
Okay.
a roll call?
On Councilor Winslow's motion to adopt, the clerk will call the roll.
Anderson? Yes. Condon? Yes. Crow? Yes. DiMaria? Yes. Murphy?
Yes.
O'Malley? Yes. Spatafora? Winslow?
Yes.
Sika?
Yes.
All right, great. Thank you very much. Great.
The order has been adopted. Next order of business.
Paper 399-19, be it hereby ordained that Section 8.35, 8.36, 8.37, and 8.38 of Chapter 8 of the Resident Ordinance of 91 be amended relative to the officers, specialists, clerks, and unclassified employee salary schedule.
Councilor Spatafora.
Thank you, Madam President. So I was given a request by the Controller's Office. These are non-union raises, very standard operating procedure. We would have to update the ordinances and also pass in finance. It is a 2% raise. The hope is the 2.5. Thank you, Madam, Mr. Clerk. 2.5 raise. The hope and the intent is to have this sent to a joint ordinance committee and finance committee, because this is something we've always done historically, for next week, so we can have those raises hopefully will be passed, and then we can give the we can give these group of individuals an early Christmas present. They like, because there's some retro money in there, so we'd like to do this next week. Originally, the clerk was going to request to have it done tonight, but given the finance chair and the assistant finance chair is not here, well, my request is to go to joint ordinance in finance for next week with the intent of having that voted on in committee and then voted on next week during the meeting. Any questions? Happy to help. I'm just looking at my paper.
On Councilor Spatafora's motion to refer this matter to joint ordinance and finance, all those in favor? All those opposed? The matter has been referred. Next order of business.
Paper 400-19, committee reports on paper number 373-19 ordinance. Be it hereby ordained that the revised ordinances of 1991 be stricken effective January 1st, 2020, and the revised ordinance of 2020 become effective on that date.
Councilor Spatafora for the committee.
Oh, sorry. I had to take a journey down the path there. This was just a change. Sorry about that. The committee report was to revise the ordinance from 1991. We wanted to change the date from 1991 to 2020, and that all the ordinances were reflected as of the 2020 date rather than 1991. It was essentially a cleanup. We met with Karen Anderson, our past clerk, and she was at that committee meeting. Happy to answer any questions, and I do see that Karen is in the ordinance if there's any technical questions that I certainly can't remember at this point. Thank you, Madam President.
Sorry, we were supposed to receive the committee report. So on Councilor Spatafora's motion to receive the committee report, all those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? The committee report is received. Councilor Winslow.
Yeah, I know at the committee level, I had a chance to review most of the ordinances, and then I had finished up the final sections, and there were just a few typos and a few corrections that I think are going to be reflected in this version. So, I think we also talked about there's some more policy matters that we just need to hold off and fix later. But it was just making sure that the report that gets here was corrected in format and a few minor corrections that were more in the just editorial or typos. So I made all those comments. So thanks.
Thank you. Councilor O'Malley.
Thank you, Madam President. Again, thank you to Karen Anderson for all the hard work on this one. It was quite a quick turnaround time. And I think that in addition to updating the date, one of the reasons we wanted to move forward with this is so it gets into a format so we can place it online, so it's easier for our residents and us to kind of search and query our ordinances. One of the things I'd like to make sure is that the record reflects that what our legislative intent is, that if there are any discrepancies between what we did over the last few years and what we're ordaining tonight or whenever we do, that if there's any discrepancies, that those will be affixed retroactively if we discover them in the future. So with that, if that's the legislative intent of the body, I'm in support of passing this. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilor Spatafora.
I was just chatting. Thank you, Madam President. I was just trying to recall there was a term. So the Councilor O'Malley's point too is Councilor Winslow made some changes. Policy is not really reflected here. This was to clean it up, but also this allows us to put it in Granicus. But in the future, it allows us to, the clerk's office will have the ability to make these changes on the fly in terms of updating the policies and the ordinances here. I forget the technical term. I was trying to ask Karen what the word was. Mr. Council Kamel remembered it, but I don't recall it. But this is going to have major implications. Oh my God, I can't talk today. for us in the future to update our ordinances so they don't have to always go back and change the
Change the
numerical
numbers.
order and the chronological order. So this is a huge win for us in using technology and hoping for anybody's support.
Thank you. On Councilor Spatafora's motion to enroll this ordinance as amended, did we amend it?
No?
The clerk will call the roll.
Anderson. Condon. Crow. Di Maria. Murphy. O'Malley. Spatafora.
Yes.
Winslow. Sika.
Yes. The ordinance is enrolled as amended. On Councilor Spatafora's motion to suspend docket rules to ordain this ordinance as amended, clerk will call the roll.
Anderson. Condon. Crow. Di Maria. Matheson. Murphy. O'Malley. Spatafora.
Yes.
Winslow. Sika.
Yes. Docket rules are suspended. On Councilor Spatafora's motion to ordain the ordinance as amended, the clerk will call the roll.
Anderson. Condon. Crow. Di Maria. Murphy. O'Malley. Spatafora.
Yes.
Winslow. Sika.
Yes. The ordinance is ordained as amended. Next order of business. Docket's clear. The docket is clear. Anybody wish to speak personal privilege? Councilor Condon.
Thank you, Madam President. I'd like to take this opportunity to thank our fire department and our police department for the way they responded this morning. We had a fire at 350 Charles Street, Monsignor Nagel Apartments, and fortunately that fire occurred in the this morning, because it may have been a different situation if it had occurred in the middle of the night. The fire was contained to the rubber roof close to the cell tower. I don't think they've finished their investigation yet, so I'll leave that to the fire department. But to see the way our departments act so professional in dealing with the fire and the residents, the way they move them into their community room, it makes you proud to be associated with both police and fire. So thank you very much.
Thank you. Councilor Winslow.
Yeah, I just want to wish everybody a happy Thanksgiving, and I hope that you have the chance to enjoy that with friends and family, and just really enjoy that special time together. Thanking everybody for the year you've had, and appreciating that family time together. Thanks.
Thank you. Councilor Spatafora.
Thank you, Madam President. I'll start off with the Thanksgiving. I want to wish everybody happy Thanksgiving. Remind residents that the Bread of Life is always looking for volunteers to help deliver and serve meals on the day of Thanksgiving, which is in the Malden High School cafeteria. It's a great event to bring your family to. I know I've been doing it for the last 10 or 15 years, and every year my kids are actually looking forward to it now. So it's a great event for the city, and the Bread of Life does a great job putting that on. Also want to wish best of luck to all the Malden-based football teams. Besides turkey, it's football, so we always have to give them a shout-out. Also, it's hard to believe, holiday parade's coming up. I think it's the 30th, Saturday the 30th, am I correct? I'm looking around the audience. Saturday the 30th, I know Councilor Anderson will be there with his contingent. He has his own parade within a parade, so we look forward for everybody's participation, both the residents and all the people who march, so we look forward to that. And also want to tell residents we are making a change. I guess it's a tradition now. I think it's the third year. We will be doing a tree lighting ceremony with Kathleen Manning Hall in the mayor's office has termed the Giant Everest tree at the Fellsmere Pond. We have traditionally done it the same day as the holiday parade, and then it was immediately following the lighting of the city tree on the Malden Public Library lawn. There's a couple other events that are always made the the elected officials, the mayor's office have to scramble around the city to attend. So I made the determination this year we're going to be doing it on the Friday night at 6:30. So it won't interfere with the holiday parade, 6:30, so everybody's invited. We're going to have hot chocolate. We're going to have holiday music. We'll have cookies. We'll have a visit from the big guy, not the mayor, Santa. And then the mayor will be on hand, too. I'm sure the kids are going to want to take more pictures with the mayor, but Santa will be there as well. So I look forward to everybody on Friday night, 6:30, Fellsmere Pond, all invited. Again, look forward to seeing you, and happy Thanksgiving.
Thank you. Councilor Murphy.
Thank you, and just following along with Santa's visit, because once we get through Thanksgiving, Christmas is right around the corner. It's going to be very quick this year. Santa is coming back to Malden after his visit Friday night to once again be at Pine Banks Park. I believe this will be his 87th visit to his North Pole office at Pine Banks Park, and that will be the weekend of the 14th and 15th, Saturday and Sunday in December. Santa will be there from 3 to 6 p.m. Each day, and once again the Ward 5 elves will be there with hot chocolate and cookies to welcome everyone. All are invited. It's not just a Ward 5 event, it's a city event, and people come back from actually outside the city with their children and grandchildren because they remember going and seeing Santa and sitting in the sleigh from their time as a child. So we hope everyone will turn out and see, as Councilor Spadafora says, the big guy, and get some pictures. Pictures are free of charge that day. Paul Hammersley will be there taking pictures, and we'll give you a card and a number where you'll be able to go online and get the pictures of your child with Santa. So there's that. Happy Thanksgiving. And just, I wasn't here 2 weeks ago, and Councilor Spadafora, I think this is, just kind of bring you in on this, as I believe it's a family member, but I would like to just take a moment of silence in memory of Patty Desiderio, who is the mother of our Assistant City Clerk, also a very dear friend of mine who I will miss greatly. So we could have a moment of silence.
Thank you. Councilor O'Malley.
Thank you, Madam President. I just wanted to remind the council and the community that after the holiday parade on Saturday, the Malden High School Alumni Association will have their annual pasta supper fundraiser. We all receive raffle tickets that are going into a really great prize. I think it's like a grand prize of $2,500, Red Sox tickets, etc. The resources that they raise, or the funds that they raise, benefit Malden High School graduates for scholarships and other really great things. So anything we can do to help support the great organization is appreciated. In addition, St. Paul's Parish at 26 Washington Street will be hosting the Most Wonderful Time holiday concert, and that will be at 7 p.m. on December 7th December 7th. It's a Saturday. That's it. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilor Di Maria.
Thank you, Madam President. First, I want to acknowledge Rob McCarthy, Ward 2 School Committee, who is in the audience, and also our new coming into the council, Amanda Linehan, who is in the audience, Ward 3 City Councilor, and her daughter, Georgia. Also, with Thanksgiving and the Bread of Life this year, because as you're out driving around the meals, I'm in there serving, and it's the best day of my life every year. My family comes, and it's gotten us through some very difficult times, so it's more than a tradition to me. But this year, they will be offering translation services during the prayer, and at the beginning we share what we're grateful for. So I'm very happy that Bread of Life will be doing that this year. And I wish everyone a very happy Thanksgiving, and keep eating all that great food. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilor Crowe.
Thank you, Madam President. As everyone else said, happy Thanksgiving. And as I know people have talked about the Bread of Life dinner, it's actually called Don't Be Alone for Thanksgiving. And so they serve meals. So if you have no place to go, you can go down there, and it's a great community event. And they serve dinner from 10 to 12 with all the fixings. So if you need a place to go for Thanksgiving, come down to the Malden High School cafeteria and visit all of us, who are doing some volunteering there. So it's a great event, and it really does give everybody that we're all sort of in this together. So happy Thanksgiving.
Thank you. And on behalf of the chair, there you go. Councilor Anderson.
It's the most wonderful time of the year. It is the most wonderful time. Do you hear all these wonderful announcements that were made of all the great activities that have taken place during this holiday season? And I want to add to that. I want to begin by saying that this last Sunday, Mei Hong from the Chinese Cultural Connection put on a collaborative activity where she invited people to come in who represented various ethnic and racial cultures. And she wanted to have, I think she called it a East-West dialogue over how the differences of people who celebrate the Thanksgiving. So we had people from Sweden and Brazil, and I represented the African American community, and it was just a wonderful exchange of the differences and the similarities that we all have in these different cultures and in celebrating a very thankful part of the year. So I wanted to give a shout out to May for a wonderful opportunity to bring people together. The holiday parade is something that has been mentioned earlier, and I really want to encourage people to come out and help us celebrate again this wonderful time of the year with all the schools participating and community organizations, as we'll be leaving from the Salem Wood School area on Saturday, the 30th at 2 o'clock. And it's something that I look forward to every year, and it's just, again, another wonderful opportunity for us all to celebrate together. And Santa Claus will also be in Ward 7 the following Saturday, following the parade. The Santa Claus will be in Lincoln Common, at the Anderson Field portion of Lincoln Common. He will be there. We're going to try something different this year. We normally would go up and down the streets in Ward 7, but this time we're going to do a stationary presentation of having Santa Claus there in the park. He's going to be there from about 10 o'clock in the morning till 3 or 4 in the afternoon. And we invite everyone, not just the residents of Ward 7, but as Councilor Murphy is saying as well, that we want everyone to enjoy the festivities. And again, it's the most wonderful time of the year. Thank you, Madam President.
Thank you. You're a really tough act to follow. As always. On behalf of the chair, I too want to wish everybody a happy Thanksgiving and have a wonderful time with your family this Thursday. This Saturday at Linden Park is the annual home for the Holiday Street Hockey Tournament. I think it starts at 9. I was trying to look. Does anybody know? Pretty sure it's 9 o'clock. The puck drops at 9. I'm just going to double check. It doesn't say. 8 a.m. Oh, I was wrong. 8 a.m. The puck drops at 8. Nice and early on a cold, brisk morning. They'll be there for the majority of the day. The proceeds will benefit the East Coast Junior Patriots, which some of you may not know, but it's the Malden, Everett, Revere, East Boston hockey program that we have for all the local kids to learn how to skate. It's a great cause, and it's a great event. So if you have nothing to do in between the parade and everything else that day, then you can head on over to the street hockey rink at Linden Park. Thank you all for coming. Good night.
Motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn. Sorry. I know.